Chapter 1. As the sun sank below the horizon, I soared towards the massive terraforming installation. My Starblade, a colossal machine standing 40 feet tall, resembled a fearsome, albeit chunky, warrior in full armor. Its metallic surface shimmered with an otherworldly glow, adorned with glowing crystals that glowed with contained bounds of power within. My mission was one of rescue and destruction. I like to classify people into enemies, friends and civilians, and this time I had one civilian to rescue and a whole lot of enemies to end. The beliefs of my enemies were insignificant to me, so I didn't worry if their cause was just or not. They stood against me and I would kill them all and let Raptor Jesus sort them out. The terrain below us was desolate and lifeless, reflecting the planet's early stages of terraforming. With precise control, I guided my blade into a hidden crevasse near the mountain, where the massive terraforming installation thundered away, creating the gases that one day would become the air of this planet. Activating the camouflaging function on my Starblade, my mecha blended seamlessly with its surroundings, looking like just another rock to all but the best sensors. Disengaging from the command chair, I disconnected the various wires and fluid lines attaching me to my blade's command chair. Pulling on my lightweight combat suit painted blue and silver, made of reinforced metal fibers and loaded with an array of tools, and armed with a powerful slug thrower and rift cutter for close encounters, I was ready for battle. There are only slight differences between my slug thrower and its ancestral gun, being that a slug thrower will work pretty much anywhere, in space, underwater, and its construction is a little bit more rugged. The rift cutter, on the other hand, is another bit of high-tech wizardry from the same mad scientist who figured out how to force people to produce mana and how to harness it. By focusing some of my body's mana into the telescoping metal handle, I can produce a localized warp rift about 3 feet long and a couple of inches wide that disassembles and sends the very atoms of anything it touches to another place. Everyone describes the blade of a rift cutter differently. I say it is a cool, purple crackling thing, others say it looks like a frozen lightning bolt, and still others describe it as a giant purple light tube. Regardless of what it looks like, it can only be used by an awakened human. That's someone that has been mutated to be able to use magic. The old Star Knights decided to make it their sign of office, as well as a devastating close-quarters melee weapon, or can opener. Another crucial function of the rift cutter is a telescoping handle that has emitters at both ends which can swivel, allowing knights to make their rift cutter take different shapes. I normally keep it either in a simple hilt with a single blade sword form or, if I'm feeling the need to be showy, I form it into this cool-looking scythe form. Oh yeah, I'm a Star Knight in training, a member of the noble order of people who run around and tell the rest of the settled galaxy what they can and can't do, and kill them if they step out of line. Thinking of Star Knights triggers a hypnotic memory, as I hear the droning voice of my teacher Stone Drake reciting a lesson. Star Knights have 3 main powers. First power: Force Blasts. They can shoot bolts or beams of raw force from their hands, eyes, or special crystals. These beams also push back against the Star Knight but to a lesser amount than they shoot. Second power: Shield. Star Knights can make clear force fields that protect themselves from almost all attacks. These shields are bubbles of extra-dimensional matter that wraps around the Star Knight, covering them and any gear they are wearing. These shields flash various colors when shot, and they also provide friction when they rub against things. They can also mess with gravity and inertia. They can be made airtight and can be calibrated to let the user fire through the shield. These shields are not without a cost, as they draw on the Star Knight's body or an external electrical power source to fuel them, but with the correct equipment the power cost of these shields is extremely low compared to the protection they provide. Third power: Rift Jumping. Rift jumping, or just jumping, is a form of instant teleportation, where the Star Knight travels through an alternate dimension for less than a fraction of a second, then arrives back into the real world at a different place. Gaw Great Star Goat's beard, I hate those, I mutter to myself, shaking off the flashback, which is a semi-useful side effect of my hypno-accelerated training. Flashbacks happen instantly in real time, but seem to take forever in my head. Once my mind is back to normal, I get back to equipping myself for battle. After I'm armed and suited up and I've checked all my gear, I step onto the small circle made of tracer crystal right in front of my command chair and mentally reach inside myself to rift jump. Normally when I jump, I need a line of sight through my meat eyes, a short physical video feed, or Starblade's optical sensors. Wirelessly transmitted videos and pictures don't work, not sure why. Also, I can rift jump to a spot next to a crystal that I know the resonates for, but don't try to get me to explain resonances to you because it's like trying to describe color to a blind man. It just works. So in this case I used the crystal embedded in my mecha's palm that functions as a positioning thruster and force blaster weapon as my resonance beacon. Now, all Star Knights can rift jump. It's just how far and how much you can jump that varies between knights. All knights have one of their powers that is much stronger than the others, and the knights use these differences to categorize the different types of knights: bricks, blasters, and jumpers. I'm a jumper, yes, not the most inspiring name, but it works. This marks my debut solo mission. I was dropped off by a jump ship that's still lurking somewhere in this solar system. I'm tasked with rescuing a girl linked to the mining megacorp. I think she is a relative of the owner. The terrorists are aiming to force the company off their planet or something like that. They had left her as bait on this terraforming station. The briefing didn't cover how they smuggled her there or who the terrorists were or what they really wanted. With an estimated 20 hostiles and one known hostage, my plan was simple: sneak in, secure the girl, eliminate any resistance, retreat to my blade, and pressure the terrorists to surrender or face destruction when I target the terraforming plant. I hadn't really understood how big the terraforming plant was before I looked at it myself, as it was not so much sitting on but rather taking over most of the mountain it was on. Still, the people portion of the station is much smaller, and all I really needed to do was knock enough holes in the station to let the planet's currently unbreathable atmosphere into the people parts of the station and wait their air supplies out, since the terraforming plant didn't make breathable air but rather a weird gas that would later be turned into air at a later terraforming cycle. While Command values the plant's significance, saving good people's lives remains my priority, and that includes my own. Executing my strategy goes smoothly, until my first encounter with my foes. As I infiltrated through a clear viewport into an observation deck, my senses heighten, my adrenaline and flux flow hot through my two sets of veins, one blood the other a fluid called flux that carries my arcane power. A peculiar black box with a blinking red light catches my eye. Suspecting it is a bomb, I swiftly rift jump out of the room and dash down the hall. Fortunately, no explosion follows, but knowing the box likely alerts my foes to my presence, I ditch stealth for speed. From studying the blueprints earlier, I suspected the girl is either in a holding cell or a room designed for ambushes, so I decided to head for the cell first. I continue down towards the holding cell, making only one quick stop at an equipment room to drop a small crystal that is keyed to my resonance in a supply closet for a quick emergency hop back if something goes wrong. I had entered the facility only a few hundred feet from the holding cell, so I decided to just try and rush there before my enemies could organize themselves. Turning a corner a couple of hallways from my entry point reveals a room containing two armed figures in black suits with advanced combat gear. I open fire on them with my slug thrower. Their gear deflects my initial shots with a built-in shield, an unexpected twist absent from Intel. Now, while personal shields are not uncommon in the galaxy, they are very expensive. For reference, most planetary governors and their family members have shields, but their bodyguards usually don't get them. Vehicle-sized shields are cheaper and more common, but the smaller a shield unit is, the more expensive it is, so you only find personal shields on the very rich or elite military units. They return fire with plasma rifles that punch clean through the console that I duck behind while I switch to my rift cutter. The blasts of their plasma rifles pose a threat even to my superior Monotech shield. The presence of plasma rifles in such delicate surroundings puzzles me, given their destructive capabilities against thin walls and the toxic atmosphere outside. A quick jump places me behind the first opponent, and with a swift strike of my rift cutter he is cut in two. As his buddy is still turning towards me, I rift jump to his side and with another swift slash end my second foe. This exchange took only a couple of seconds and I am once again racing down the corridors towards my objective. Dashing onwards, I encounter another pair of guards further within the installation. Activating my rift cutter, I decide to be a bit showy and transform my rift cutter into a scythe-like form midair that enables me to swiftly dispatch one foe, before slamming the butt end of my scythe into the other's chest, quickly summoning a new blade through the emitter on the butt of my scythe, which bursts through the chest of his companion with minimal effort. My showy move costs me. My last opponent gurgles his unintelligible last words, but still manages to stitch my leg with a line of plasma bolts, which drops my shield's power down to 40%, leaving me with a sudden, small but painful headache. Who in the great Zord Lord are these guys? I mumble to myself. I give my bleeding former foes a once-over, but they were dressed in all black combat gear with no identifying marks except a strange insignia. A black ring with 8 symbols spaced around it on their shoulders. The symbols spaced around the ring are the 4 gambling card suits with a gear, lightning bolt, a credit sign, and lastly the sign for a computer tablet. Weird markings for a symbol, but hey, these guys are terrorist crazies, so I guess their symbol doesn't have to make sense. As I bend closer to examine it, I notice all of the symbols are black except for the lightning bolt and the tablet, which are both red. Yeah, the black ring is a different color black than the black of their gear, still black on black. Weird. Shrugging, I pick up one of the fallen dude's plasma rifles and give it a try, but the frigging thing just gives a sad little bleep and the power readout flashes to an unauthorized user. Well, bleep me, I exclaim. These dudes have personal keyed guns too. By this point I've mentally upgraded these terrorists to bad dudes, because anyone with this level of training and gear is not your run-of-the-mill crazy tree humper. After my last 2 encounters, they have to know someone's here, but I'm guessing that they don't know what I am yet. But my heart still feels like it wants to jump out of my chest and run back to hide in my blade. I don't encounter any more dudes on my way to the holding cell, and as I finally slice through the door with my rift cutter and kick it in, I don't find some pretty grateful chick, but a Zording plasma mine.